What's going on, college football fans? It's coming up the third Saturday in October. We've got a big time SEC showdown, and we're going to break it down for you today. Tennessee on the road at Alabama. It's a yearly thing. It's been played over 100 times, and we're going to get to see it again this Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and Tennessee fans, Alabama fans, or just college football fans alike. Uh, Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know, how do you see this one going this weekend? This has been a very interesting matchup over the last few years. Tennessee getting off of the skid, a couple of years ago, winning at home, and this one's going to be on the road though. And Tennessee hasn't won on the road in Alabama since, I believe, 2003 is what I was reading today. This one opened up at a 7.5 point favorite in favor of Alabama at the home team there. It's ticked up to 8.5. It opened at 58.5 for the total point scored for this one, and that has ticked up to 60.5. So already got some movement on that line early in the week. This is going to be an interesting one, man. Obviously, Vegas feels like there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think naturally we've got a lot of questions for both of these defenses, in this one and how they're going to be able to match up against what I think are two pretty good offenses. I'll jump right into the offenses first of all. I mean, Ty Simpson really has kind of been the toast of college football this year. I mean, Alabama has lost a game just like Tennessee has. They're both 5-1 coming into this, but Alabama, if you lose a game early in college football, people tend to forget, right? And I feel like the Florida State loss is just so far in the back of everybody's mind at this point, and rightfully so. Alabama looks like a different team since then. But one thing that really has stuck out to me this year, we've covered a lot of Alabama games. Nobody's really been able to get after Ty Simpson like Florida State was in week one, and I feel like that's really been the difference for this offense. It feels like Alabama has been one step ahead ever since that first week loss, as far as picking up blitzes or teams trying to just take a base defense to Alabama. And look, Ty Simpson, if he's got time, he's going to tear you apart, man. There's good receivers on this team, and it's not just Ryan Williams. It hasn't been Ryan Williams at times. It's been some of these other guys. And it's been a defense that has been led by a really good secondary that's been able to get some turnovers. So, look, Alabama has looked really, really, really good. I'm struggling at this point to see how Tennessee is going to be able to stop this offense. Now, Jam Miller, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play. I don't know if you've got any clarification on that. I don't know if anybody does at this point. But we'll see if he's able to go in this one. I think that's a really big deal for the Alabama offense, or in turn the Tennessee defense. But look, for both of these defenses in this game, Mason, I think whoever can line up and win their one-on-ones on the line is going to be able to be successful in this game, getting some stops. And just a handful of stops in this game is probably going to be enough to sway the outcome. So what I mean by that is Tennessee hasn't been a team that's been able to just bring four and win this year, like we've seen them do last year and really the year before, when those defenses were really, really successful. That hasn't really been this defense for Tennessee this year, and that's been a little bit of a surprise. As we kind of thought maybe the offense would be more of the question for Tennessee this year, but it's really been the opposite, especially after Nico Iamaleava quits on the team like right before spring, and you bring in Joey Aguilar. All that's been like a real pleasant surprise. But I think Tennessee's going to have to take some risk in this game defensively to be able to stop this Alabama offense. I think anybody it really is going to have to, because I think the offensive line for Alabama is pretty good. So to think that Tennessee is going to be able to bring four and win that battle, to the extent that they're able to put pressure on Ty Simpson, I'm just not seeing that being a reality. So Tennessee's going to have to get creative. They're going to have to figure out a way to get Ty Simpson off his spot. And I think for Alabama, you've got to do something very similar to that, on defense if you're going to stop this Tennessee offense. Um, I think you're going to have to. I don't think you can blitz a whole lot against this Tennessee offense. I think that's what they want. They want those one-on-ones outside. And although I do think Alabama's very good in the secondary, I think that they have to be able to stop the run with a base defense, just like I was talking about with Tennessee. That way they can, keep the numbers that they need on the backside of that defense to help out with Chris Brazzell, who's been unbelievable. I think he's really, really good. I think he's an NFL player. I think that's kind of the recipe for both of these defenses. How do you win some of those one-on-ones? I think there's more answers to that question for Alabama at this point than there is for Tennessee, and I think that's probably why you see the 8.5-point spread right now in this game. What are your thoughts on this one? This is going to be another good third Saturday in October, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think Alabama's favored for a good reason. By 8.5 points, it seems like a pretty solid line. However, we've seen. Look, this is the SEC. This is college football, circa 2025. We've seen upsets galore already this year, week in and week out. The way that Tennessee is going to win this game, and I think you nailed it, Mark. It's going to be sacking Ty Simpson, which they've actually done at a surprisingly good rate so far this year. And Alabama, they're sitting at 95th in the country, giving up almost 2.5 sacks per game. Tennessee's first in the country in sacking the quarterback, getting 4.3 sacks per game. So, which to me is so surprising because you've got Ricky Gibson out, you've got Jermod McCoy out. They hadn't played all year, right? You got a true freshman in Redmond playing at cornerback on one side, and then you got a transfer coming in, Colton Hood, playing on the other side. And those guys have been really better than you could ask to come in not expecting to play and to be able to cover like they have and give the defensive line that's not as good as they were last year. I think Joshua Josephs is an absolute freak, but they're not as deep as they were last year. But those cornerbacks are giving them time to get to the quarterback. They're going to have to get home in this game. They absolutely have to. The run defense has been okay, not as good as it was last year. If Jam Miller is able to go, I think that the offense for Alabama, their run game, is going to be much better. We've seen it. It's night and day from when Jam Miller's in there versus when he's not. Yep. They gotta be able to stop the run, which I think they will, and then you're going to give up some plays. Look, Redmond's good. We saw Redmond get beat a lot against Georgia's receivers. Well, now you got Alabama's receivers that are a little bit better, right, on the top end. I think that Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams are better than anybody on Georgia's team or anybody that Tennessee's faced all year. This is going to be the toughest test for them on the outside, and I think that they're going to get got a few times. But if you can sack the quarterback, get him in third and long at least. Force him in obvious passing situations, and you've got a little bit of a chance. That's been the issue though this year with Tim Banks and this defense. They still want to play man to man, right? That they're being very stubborn about playing man coverage and not going into zone coverage. I don't know why, but I mean, that's been Tim Banks' identity for the entirety of his defense coordinating career. But I don't think that this is the team to do it. I mean, yeah, when you have Ricky Gibson and Jerrod McCoy in there, you can do that, but that hasn't really been the best option, I think, so far this year. And we saw Arkansas kind of take advantage of that last week. This is a whole nother animal with Alabama. And while I do think that you can get to the quarterback, limit the running game, and put yourself in some positive situations, it's going to be really tough for Tennessee to just completely keep Alabama out of the end zone. I think that they're going to get beat on some chunk plays, and that's kind of been the story I think for a lot of teams, in particular running the football. It's been a lot of pounding your head into a brick wall one, two, three times, and then you squirt free for 30 yards and gash the defense. That's been a lot of teams' identity in their attempt to run the football. Maybe Alabama has a little bit of that this week as well. But going on the other side of the football, Alabama is to me the best in the country on the back end of the defense. Um, they've got some absolute studs. Um, playing in the secondary there, you've got Xavier Brown, who's been playing well. Keon Sabb's been playing well. Damani Jackson, I think, is a really solid player. And then last week against Missouri, we saw Dejon Lee come up and make some plays, a 6'4" freshman cornerback who looks to be very promising. How does Tennessee, who traditionally wants to run the football, I think this year it's been um, a little bit more involved in the passing game. This reminds me kind of I think it was the 2022, maybe 2021 Tennessee offense. When they had Hendon Hooker in there, where they're a little bit more balanced, but able to throw the football down the field more. How do they compare what going up against Alabama? Because Alabama, they've been really good on, like I said, on the back end of the defense. They haven't given up many passing yards per game, but they're susceptible in the running game. Tennessee hasn't been as good as they have been in the past in the run game, but they're not bad either. I mean, they're still averaging over 200 yards a game on the ground, so you can't ask for too much more. Um, is that where Tennessee is able to get an advantage? I think it's going to be really tough, especially with Tim Keenan coming back. I think that has improved the defensive line for Alabama. And honestly, last week we said that Missouri was going to be able to run on Alabama. It really wasn't the case. I mean, Missouri hung around in that game, but I, I I was expecting a little bit more out of that offense, and being able to put pressure on the defense by running the football, getting themselves in favorable situations on third down. We saw some of that, but it wasn't like I came out of that game thinking that Alabama just has no run defense whatsoever. I do think that it's been improved as the season's gone on. This is another opportunity for Alabama to take a step and prove that they're um, they have a good enough run defense to win this conference. So to me, that's going to be the name of the game. You've got good on good with Tennessee's wide receivers versus Alabama's secondary, and then on the flip side, does Tennessee get home to Ty Simpson? If they don't end up with at least 4 sacks in this game, I think that they're cooked. To be honest with you, that's going to be their best defense going up against these Alabama wide receivers, with them having so many injuries on the back end of the defense. I like Alabama in this game, but there is a path to victory for Tennessee. I think, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I agree completely with what you said about last week against Missouri. It seemed like the run fits were a whole lot better for Alabama against Missouri, and I think a little bit of that to do was with LT Overton playing a little bit better than what we've seen in some of the earlier weeks in the season. He looked a little more like what we anticipated he would look like. But there's not been any more pleasant of a surprise on the defense for Alabama than Bray Hubbard this year. I mean, it'd be remiss if we didn't talk about him with 3 interceptions, 4 pass deflections, a forced fumble this year, and not to mention 17 solo tackles this season, 24 total tackles for the season. So, that puts him right up there, top 3 on the team in tackles at the defensive back spot. Quietly, Bray Hubbard playing a real smart DB position, if you know what I mean. So, look, I again, I'm just interested to see if Tennessee can figure out a way to, first of all, run the football. You talked about that. That I think that's the path to victory. If you can run the football successfully, right, you're going to get Alabama um, probably crowding the box a little bit, and maybe you get some one on ones because Alabama feels good about their secondary. I mean, as a defensive play caller, you got to feel good about your guys being able to cover one on one. Damani Jackson is going to be tested. Certainly, he's probably going to be the guy on Brazzle this weekend, and so that one-on-one matchup is one that I've got my eyes on big time. I expect both of these guys to be Sunday players, so this is a future NFL matchup right here
Hmm.
this Saturday, and I think we're going to get to see one-on-one matchups because, as I said, Alabama has got to they got to stop the run, but anytime you play Tennessee's offense, you want to prevent the big plays. So I'm just so curious to see, like, because those two things don't go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? Like crowding the box and not giving up the big play. I mean, that's like having your cake and eating it too. So I'm just super interested because if Tennessee is able to run the football in this one and Alabama sits back, and doesn't allow those one on ones along the perimeter, okay, well then that works out, I think, even better for Tennessee. I mean, that's a much safer, I think, uh, uh, path to possessing the ball, keeping the ball away from Alabama's offense, keeping your defense off of the field, and that's not exactly something that Tennessee is known for. I think if you're Alabama, you want to stop the run, but at the same time, you've got to make this Tennessee offense earn it. You've got to make them go 10 or 12 play drives, right? And prove that they can do that. So I'm really interested to see that matchup in this game, and see if it induces some of those one-on-one matchups and what happens because that's going to be what decides this game. I'm pretty sure. And again, I think a big piece to this one is the running back position. Is Jam Miller going to be able to go for Alabama? Because if he's not, then I think this is a pretty one-dimensional Alabama offense. Do I think Tennessee's defense is good enough to match up with them for 60 minutes, even though they're one-dimensional? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the secondary is good enough to do that. Um, it just feels like at some point there's going to be a letdown moment for Alabama. Uh, and maybe it's already happened, and they experienced it so early in the season that that they've already rallied. But I mean, this schedule is so difficult, man. And I know this game's at home, but it just feels like a letdown spot is coming for Alabama at some point. You can't play this many highly emotional, close games like they have and just keep doing it week in and week out. I mean, it is exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. So, um, look, I mean, all indications point in my mind to Alabama winning this game, but 8.5 feels like way too many points. Um, this feels like a close game. We've seen a ton of close games. Do we think that Missouri is that much better than Tennessee? I mean, I know they're totally different teams, and they it's really hard to compare those two teams on paper. But I mean, in all honesty, I mean, if we're just looking at overall talent on teams and things like that, I mean, those two teams are comparable as far as their talent levels, Tennessee and Missouri. They're certainly comparable if Tennessee's not more talented. So there is certainly a path to victory here for Tennessee, and but there is a reason that they haven't won theirs in Bryant Denny since 2003. So I think this is a close one. I think 8.5 is way too many points. I think you're going to see more bettors coming in on Alabama as the week goes on. So I think if you're going to bet on Tennessee, I think you wait, see where this number goes. The over under, I think, is going to continue to tick up, and um, rightfully so. I think there will be some points scored in this one, but maybe you wait till later in the week and you slash that under. But I think I'm just going to keep my money in my pocket for this one and just see what happens because I think we know what Alabama is. We know what they are. I think we know a lot about Tennessee already. with what we've seen with them in the Georgia game. But I still think there are a few things that are undecided in my mind as far as how good is Tennessee this year, and we're going to get to see it this weekend. Um, but my heart's telling me a letdown's coming for Bama. I don't know if it's this weekend, but I think Tennessee can keep it closer than 8.5. Give me Alabama to win, Tennessee to cover. We'll see if our minds change any whenever we get back together on the betting show on Thursday. We've got another big game breakdown coming for y'all tomorrow. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, drop a comment, and let us know who's winning this sucker. And we will see all of y'all tomorrow.